Imagine this. You're just getting started on a brand new project and you're excited to start building. You grab a roll of ABS from the shelf, load it in, and hit print, only later to find a horrible, stringy mess on the build plate instead of the parts you so desperately wanted. This is what happens when your filament isn't dry. But don't worry, today we're putting 2 filament dryers to the test to save your prints. Hey everybody, I'm your host Mitsu, and today we're going to be putting my humble air fryer against the latest and greatest filament dryer from Eibos, the Polyphemus. By the end of today's video, you'll be able to make a well-informed decision on which is best for you. Before we start the comparison, let's get the Polyphemus out of the box and make sure it actually works. The base of the dryer comes pre-assembled, and all we need to do is assemble the rest of the enclosure. This is as easy as sliding the acrylic panels into the slots on the frame and securing everything together with some M2.5 screws. Eibos also sent me the optional 3 kg extension pack, which is an add-on that allows the Polyphemus to fit larger 3 kg spools. I don't have any 3 kilo spools, but it is good to see that the dryer can support them. Okay, now that everything is assembled, let's make sure the Polyphemus works as advertised. Here we have a roll of very, very wet carbon fiber ASA. I know it's wet because I kept it submerged in a pot of water for over 3 hours. We're going to print a benchy, then dry the roll in the Polyphemus, and then print another one after. As expected, this first one looks like garbage. This is definitely some very wet filament. Now I'm going to put the roll inside the Polyphemus and let it dry overnight at 70 degrees C. Normally I dry my ABS and ASA at 75 degrees, but the Polyphemus can't go over 70. We'll talk more about this later. In the morning, I unplugged the dryer, closed the vents on top, and brought the dryer over to the Q1 Pro to start the print. The Polyphemus has a total of 5 spots you can route a PTFE tube through, 3 on the top and 2 on the bottom. This is really handy as it means you can print directly from the dryer without ever needing to expose the filament to open air. As you can see here, the filament is contained all the way from the dryer right to the tool head on the Q1 Pro. This also means that you can print while you're actively drying the filament, which could be handy for extremely hygroscopic materials, or maybe just if you live in a very humid environment. For me though, I'm just leaving the dryer off for this test. Comparing the 2 benchies is a night and day difference, especially when you look closely at the top surfaces. All the moisture that was inside the filament is gone, and we're left with a crisp, clean looking part. I know that I slightly exaggerated the waterlogging process, but keeping filament dry is absolutely crucial for higher end engineering filaments like carbon fiber PET, carbon fiber nylon, and others. Basically, if your filament is filled with some sort of additive, there is a good chance you'll need to be extremely careful to keep it dry. If you need parts printed out of high-end filaments, but don't want all the fuss involved with drying and printing them, then you should check out the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. Today's video is brought to you by PCBWay, your one-stop shop for all things PCB manufacturing, assembly, and beyond. Whether you just need one part or dozens, PCBWay has you covered with their top-notch services at unbeatable prices. PCBWay doesn't just stop at PCBs, they also offer 3D printing, laser cutting, and CNC machining services to bring your projects to life. Their high-quality services, fast turnaround times, and excellent customer service make them the best choice for makers. So why wait? Head over to PCBWay.com with my link below and get started on your next project today. Thanks again to PCBWay for supporting the channel and being the sponsor of today's video. Now that we've established that the Polyphemus does work as advertised, it's time to compare it to my current filament drying solution, the Humble Air Fryer. This is the Ninja AF101, and it's been my go-to filament drying solution for the past year and a half. Our first comparison is going to be ease of use. Both solutions are intuitive and easy to use. It only takes a couple of button presses to go from off to drying at the right temperature. The Polyphemus has a bunch of presets for different filament, while with the air fryer, you need to actually manually input the temperature and the time that you want to dry for. While some may prefer the interface of one or the other, both of them do get the job done. Next up, maximum temperature. This is where the air fryer excels and the Polyphemus starts to lag behind. In dehydrate mode, the AF101 goes up to 90 degrees C, where the Polyphemus is capped at 70. On the air fryer, if you need to go even hotter, you can just switch to a different mode and go all the way up to 200 degrees. This is important as it unlocks the ability to not only dry filament, but to anneal it as well, which is something I'll be talking about more in a future video. With the limit of 70 degrees on the Polyphemus, I would only be comfortable using it for PLA, PETG, TPU, ABS, and ASA. Filaments like PET, PC, PPS, and nylon require higher temps to get dry, and I wouldn't be confident using the Polyphemus for them. I'm not sure if the 70 degree limit is due to the heater itself, the acrylic panels the dryer is made of, or something else entirely. If Eibos could increase this limit to 90 degrees, then I think a lot more people would be interested in buying one. Next up, let's look at power consumption, which is something I haven't seen anybody compare between dryers before. To test this, I'm using this Aqara smart plug, which lets me view power consumption from an app on my phone. To dry the filament at 65 degrees, the power draw of the Polyphemus was about 120 watts, and the AF101 was 27.3. This doesn't tell the entire story though. The AF101 can only fit one spool inside, but we could have dried 2 spools at the exact same time in the Polyphemus, essentially cutting our per kilogram energy consumption in half. The 3 kilogram extension takes this even further, with closer to 40 watts per kilo. The air fryer still ends up being more efficient regardless though. I think this discrepancy is mainly due to the construction of the Polyphemus, as the actual chamber isn't insulated like the air fryer's is. You might be able to get better performance by insulating the dryer yourself, but that's beyond the scope of today's video. Finally, let's compare some of the extra features offered. The Polyphemus allows you to dry multiple spools at once, larger spools, and you can even dry your filament while printing. The Polyphemus also has a spot for desiccant, so you can use it as a dry box, and a built-in rotator to help ensure your filament is evenly dried. In contrast, the small volume of the air fryer can only fit a 1 kilogram spool, and unless you want to try drilling a hole in it, there's no way you can print out of it while drying. One advantage that the air fryer does have over the Polyphemus is its maximum temperature, allowing you to dry more exotic filaments and even anneal them as well. Okay, let's wrap this up. Which one of these is better for you depends a lot on your own personal goals with 3D printing. If you print common materials and are just looking for a convenient way to keep them dry, then the Polyphemus might make the most sense for you. On the other hand, if you're a tinkerer who really likes to dive into those exotic materials, then the air fryer is probably your best bet. After today's tests, I think I'm going to be using the Polyphemus a lot more on my own setup, as 90% of what I print can be dried at 70 degrees just fine. If I ever need it, I'll still have the air fryer in my back pocket though. If you're interested in purchasing the air fryer or the Polyphemus after watching this video, I do have some affiliate links in the description below. Buying from those links helps support the channel and comes at no extra cost to you. Thanks again to PCBWay for sponsoring this week's video, and as always, thanks so much to you for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you all in the next video, which is going to be an extra fun one you won't want to miss.